The chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with tension. Delegates from dozens of star systems filled the vast circular room, each seated in their respective tier. The council's speaker, a stoic figure named Valoran, stood at the central podium. Behind him, a massive holographic display floated in the air, projecting data, images, and, most alarmingly, combat footage. The subject of today's session was a species the Council had largely ignored for centuries: humans. Valoran, his silver robe shimmering under the chamber's light, raised his hand, and the murmur of the crowd fell silent. His voice, steady yet laced with unease, carried across the assembly. Esteemed members of the Council, today we must discuss a threat that has long gone unnoticed. For years, the humans of Earth have remained on the fringes of our awareness. Primitive. Isolated. Unworthy of consideration. But recent events demand our attention. A junior delegate, Rallan from the Orion Arm Alliance, leaned forward in her seat. She had joined the Council only a few years ago and was still getting used to its weighty deliberations. Her mentors had spoken of many dangers: rogue AI, outlaw fleets, ancient plagues, but humans? That seemed absurd. She glanced at the massive screen as it flickered to life, showing grainy images of a recent skirmish on the galactic frontier. The footage began with a diplomatic envoy, a minor representative from the highly advanced Kelmer fleet, making first contact with humans. The envoy's sleek, glowing vessel hovered above a human colony, its luminescent hull starkly contrasting with the rugged terrain of the planet below. The Kelmer's representative, speaking through universal translators, offered what seemed like a routine trade deal. In return for minerals and rare earth metals, the Kelmer would provide advanced technology, energy shields, and, of course, the Council's protection. At first, the humans appeared to agree. They smiled, nodded, and gestured in ways the Kelmer representative interpreted as acceptance. The envoy's ship landed, and a team of Kelmer technicians disembarked, prepared to demonstrate the superiority of their equipment. That was when things began to go wrong. On the screen, the audience saw humans examining the Kelmer devices, asking simple, almost naive questions. They fiddled with the alien technology, taking it apart and reassembling it. What started as curiosity quickly turned into something more alarming. Within hours, the humans had reverse-engineered several key systems. By the end of the first day, they were not only replicating the Kelmer's shield generators but improving upon them. Their modifications boosted the output by 30%, and the new human-made devices consumed half the energy of the originals. Valoran paused the footage and addressed the chamber. What you are witnessing is not a fluke. It is a pattern. Humans have an unsettling ability to adapt. To improvise. To improve. When we first observed their technological progress a century ago, we assumed they would plateau. Instead, they advanced exponentially. Now, they take our most sophisticated systems and make them more efficient in a matter of hours. Rallan frowned. Isn't that good? Couldn't we form an alliance and benefit from their ingenuity? Valoran's gaze swept over the assembly, his voice heavy. You misunderstand. Their rapid innovation destabilizes the balance of power. Look at what happens next. The footage resumed. The Kelmer team, now uneasy, attempted to reclaim their technology. But the humans had anticipated this. Using their modified equipment, they created energy barriers that nullified the Kelmer's weapons. In the following scenes, the humans, armed with their upgraded tools, defended their colony with strategies the Kelmer had never encountered. By the end of the encounter, the Kelmer envoy fled, leaving behind not only their failed trade deal but also a significant loss of reputation. In the Galactic Council chamber, whispers rippled through the audience. Rallan felt a knot forming in her stomach. These were not the actions of a naive, backward species. They were the maneuvers of a people who could think several steps ahead, who turned disadvantage into opportunity. It was no wonder the council's senior members were alarmed. Valoran continued. Humans thrive in unpredictability. They adapt faster than any species we've encountered. They take what we consider superior technology and make it their own. And they do so without hesitation, without fear. Rallan couldn't help but interject. But surely, this is just one example. A single incident. We've dealt with species that could mimic technology before. Another senior member, a veteran diplomat from the Denari clans, stood and addressed the room. It is not just one incident, Delegate Rallan. We have gathered reports from multiple sectors. Human explorers outmaneuvered a Vorkai raiding fleet last year, using tactics the Vorkai deemed impossible. They turned a mining laser into a weapon capable of slicing through capital ships. They repurposed agricultural drones into combat units that overwhelmed automated defenses. Everywhere they go, humans challenge our assumptions. They do not follow our rules. They do not respect our boundaries. They turn the tools of the powerful into the weapons of the underdog. Valoran nodded solemnly. This is why we are convened here today. Humans have shown us that their potential is not limited by what we consider possible. They have already begun to reshape the strategic landscape. And if we do not address this now, they will continue to do so until it is too late. Rallan's mind raced. The Council was treating humans not as a potential ally, but as an existential threat. And yet, she couldn't shake the thought that fear might be clouding their judgment. Were humans really that dangerous, or was the Council overreacting to a species that simply thought differently? Valoran's voice interrupted her thoughts. I propose we initiate a covert monitoring program. We must study their movements, their technologies, their strategies. If we find evidence of further destabilization, we must be prepared to act decisively. A murmur of agreement spread through the chamber, though not everyone looked convinced. Rallan glanced around at the older delegates, their expressions ranging from grim determination to reluctant assent. The decision seemed inevitable. As the meeting adjourned, Rallan lingered, her mind still processing what she had seen. Perhaps the humans truly were as dangerous as Valoran claimed. Or perhaps they were something else entirely, a species that thrived not in spite of chaos, but because of it. As the Council's decision to monitor humanity filtered through the ranks, Rallan found herself drawn deeper into the web of rumors and unease. Within days, she was summoned to a briefing led by one of the Council's intelligence officers. The room was stark and functional, a stark contrast to the Grand Council chamber. In the center stood a single projection table displaying a rotating image of Earth. Officer Malric, a grizzled veteran from the Iskin Directorate, wasted no time. Delegate Rallan, he began, his tone flat and professional, since you've expressed concerns about our approach, you'll have the opportunity to review our intelligence. Perhaps seeing the data will help you understand why we're so concerned. Rallan nodded, unsure of what to expect. The hologram zoomed in, highlighting clusters of satellites orbiting Earth. Malric tapped the display, bringing up a timeline. This is the Sol system's technological progression over the last 50 standard years. Pay attention. In quick succession, the projection showcased humanity's relentless innovation. Early satellites gave way to complex networks of orbital stations. Rudimentary starships evolved into faster-than-light capable vessels. Every step forward seemed fueled by a mixture of desperation and ingenuity. It wasn't just that humans advanced rapidly, it was how they did it. They found unconventional solutions, defying what other species considered natural progression. They combined disparate technologies, hybridizing ideas from their own past and alien tech they had barely begun to understand. The presentation continued, focusing on specific events. One clip showed a human freighter ambushed by a pirate fleet. Instead of fleeing, the freighter's crew converted their cargo of mining explosives into makeshift missiles. The pirates, expecting an easy victory, were caught off guard and forced to retreat. In another instance, a human science vessel reprogrammed a failing alien AI core into a navigational tool that allowed them to escape a collapsing star system. Rallan listened closely as Malric explained, humans operate under conditions that would paralyze most species. When faced with a problem, they don't hesitate. They act. It's not just resourcefulness, it's their capacity to adapt under extreme pressure. That's why the Council fears them. They're unpredictable, and unpredictability is a threat. Rallan considered his words. It's impressive, yes, but why assume their creativity is inherently dangerous? Couldn't we work with them, guide them, instead of treating them as a looming disaster? Malric frowned. Because they don't seem to need our guidance. They're climbing the ladder faster than we ever expected, and they're doing it without regard for the existing order. That's why the Council feels compelled to intervene before they disrupt the balance. Rallan wasn't entirely convinced, but she didn't argue further. The session concluded, and she left the briefing with more questions than answers. Back on Earth, the humans in question were largely unaware of the growing tension within the Council. Life on their home planet continued as it had for generations, driven by a blend of ambition, conflict, and discovery. In the bustling cities, engineers and scientists worked tirelessly on new propulsion systems, while colonists on the far reaches of human-settled worlds tested experimental energy shields against harsh planetary storms. Humanity's collective drive to survive and thrive showed no signs of slowing down. In one of Earth's smaller spaceports, a young engineer named Adam was overseeing the final tests on a new class of cargo ship. The vessel, the Horizon, was nothing extraordinary to the untrained eye. But Adam knew its secret: a modified warp drive scavenged from a derelict alien vessel. He and his team had spent months tinkering with the core, reshaping it into something more efficient than anything humans had previously used. The ship's maiden voyage would test its capabilities under real conditions, and Adam was eager to see it succeed. As the Horizon prepared to depart, another ship arrived at the station. This vessel bore no markings, and its design was unfamiliar even to Adam's trained eyes. The crew of the mystery ship, clad in sleek, featureless suits, said little as they disembarked. Adam, curious, tried to strike up a conversation with one of them, but the response was cold and evasive. It wasn't until the strangers vanished into the crowd that he felt a faint unease. He chalked it up to stress, pre-launch jitters, and returned to his work. Meanwhile, within the Galactic Council's intelligence division, agents began their covert monitoring. Small, unmarked probes were deployed to the Sol system, designed to observe without being detected. Their mission was simple: gather as much data as possible on human activities, from their military maneuvers to their cultural exchanges. The first round of reports was both fascinating and alarming. The probes captured humanity's relentless curiosity. They observed human scientists conducting experiments on alien artifacts that other species had long since abandoned as worthless. They recorded debates in human research forums where even the most outlandish ideas were given serious consideration. One probe transmitted a feed of a human-built drone successfully navigating an asteroid belt by repurposing alien navigation software that the original creators had deemed too unreliable to use. Each piece of evidence reinforced the Council's belief that humans were different. They weren't just fast learners, they were rule breakers. They didn't see boundaries, they saw opportunities. Back on the Council's capital world, Rallan reviewed the intelligence reports. The more she read, the more she felt conflicted. The data was undeniable: humans were evolving at an astonishing rate. But was that a reason to fear them? Or was it a reason to learn from them? One night, as she studied the latest probe transmissions, a thought struck her. What if the Council's approach, monitoring, intervening, controlling, was the wrong one? What if treating humans as a threat only ensured that they would become one? She considered proposing a diplomatic initiative, a way to engage humans directly and bring them into the galactic fold as partners rather than adversaries. But she knew it would be a hard sell. Most of the senior delegates saw humans as a wild card, a danger that needed to be contained. Rallon decided to gather more information before making her case. She would reach out to the intelligence division, request additional footage, and piece together a narrative that showed humans as more than just a problem to be managed. If she could present a different perspective, one that highlighted humanity's potential for cooperation rather than chaos, perhaps she could sway the council. As the Horizon completed its test flight, Adam and his crew celebrated their success. The modified warp drive had exceeded their expectations, delivering the cargo ahead of schedule and with minimal fuel consumption. Word of their achievement spread quickly, drawing the attention of not only Earth's own space agencies but also those mysterious figures who had arrived at the station. Unbeknownst to Adam, his work would soon become a key focus of the Council's scrutiny. For now, he was just another human pushing the boundaries of what his people could achieve. But in the eyes of the Galactic Council, he represented something far more profound, a glimpse of humanity's limitless potential, and the reason why they might truly be afraid. Back on the Council's homeworld, Rallon leaned forward at her desk, her datapad glowing faintly as she pored over intelligence reports. Each file she reviewed painted the same picture. Humans didn't just adapt quickly, they thrived in situations that would cause most other species to falter. They made the impossible routine. What truly unnerved Rallon, though, was how little of this seemed to come from any central authority. There was no grand strategy, no unified directive. Humanity's success was decentralized, powered by countless individuals making small, bold decisions that collectively reshaped their position in the galaxy. Rallon wasn't alone in her growing discomfort. Over the past weeks, a quiet faction had begun to form within the Council, composed of younger delegates and mid-level diplomats who were less convinced of the human threat. While the Council's official stance was one of caution and containment, this faction questioned whether that was the best approach. Could humanity's ingenuity and adaptability be harnessed as an asset, rather than feared as a liability? Valoran, however, remained firmly in control. He dismissed these murmurs as naive optimism. In a closed-door meeting, he presented another alarming set of footage to the Council's ruling body. This time, it showed a small human salvage crew encountering a derelict alien warship. Most species would have backed off, aware of the potential dangers or, at the very least, the diplomatic repercussions of tampering with an unknown vessel. The humans, however, saw an opportunity. Within days, they had repaired the ship's engines, integrated the advanced targeting systems into their own vessels, and even replicated parts of its stealth technology. The footage ended with the human crew returning to their outpost, towing the once-feared warship behind them like a trophy. "This is why we must act," Valoran said, his voice cutting through the chamber. "They take what isn't theirs. They learn too quickly. And they are growing more confident by the day. If we do nothing, they will become a force we cannot control." Some of the more senior delegates murmured in agreement. Others, like Rallon, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The lines of debate were becoming clearer. One side saw humanity as a wildfire that needed to be contained, while the other saw them as a resource that could be cultivated. Meanwhile, Adam was unaware of the galactic-scale discussions unfolding about his people. After the success of the Horizon's maiden voyage, he had been approached by representatives of Earth's growing space council. They wanted him to oversee a new initiative, retrofitting older human ships with hybrid alien technology. The project had its skeptics, but Adam's reputation as a problem solver had silenced many of the doubters. He and his team worked day and night, applying the same trial-and-error methods that had served them well so far. One evening, as Adam reviewed the latest schematics, a senior engineer named Kara joined him. She had been a mentor to Adam early in his career and still provided guidance when things became overwhelming. She tapped the edge of the blueprint on the screen. "You ever wonder why we're so good at this?" Kara asked. Adam frowned. "At what?" "Taking someone else's technology, stuff we barely understand, and making it work better than the original designers ever did. He shrugged. I guess, it's just how we've always done things. We don't have the luxury of centuries of perfecting systems. We figure it out as we go. Kara smiled faintly. And that's exactly why they'll never see us coming. Adam blinked at her, confused. Who? The others out there. The ones who think they've got it all figured out. They don't know what it's like to work under pressure, to innovate just to survive. That's our edge. And it's why we'll keep getting better. In the following weeks, the probes monitoring human activity began sending back more concerning data. Human outposts along the galactic frontier were now using weapon systems derived from alien tech, systems far more advanced than what Earth's military had officially developed. In one instance, a pirate fleet attempted to raid a remote colony, only to be met with devastating countermeasures. By the time reinforcements arrived, the human colonists had not only defeated the pirates but had reverse-engineered their ships, adding them to their growing fleet. The Council's Intelligence Division compiled the findings into a single, grim report. Valoran used it as the cornerstone of his next proposal, direct intervention. He called for a covert operation to infiltrate Earth's top research facilities, sabotage key projects, and slow humanity's progress before it spiraled out of control. Rallan was horrified. We're talking about an act of war, she said during a private meeting with a group of concerned delegates. This isn't just monitoring or containment anymore. If we start interfering directly, we risk turning their creativity and resourcefulness against us. A seasoned diplomat from the Andoran sector shook his head. We're already beyond the point of no return. If we wait any longer, it won't be sabotage, it'll be open conflict. They'll surpass us, and we'll have no choice but to react violently. Rallan knew this was a turning point. The Council's fear was driving them to desperate measures, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this fear was rooted in misunderstanding. Humanity wasn't trying to dominate the galaxy. They were trying to survive, to thrive in a universe that had never given them a fair chance. The Council's attempts to stifle them might only provoke the very threat they feared. On Earth, Adam's work reached new heights. His team's hybrid designs were being implemented across multiple fleets, and their success drew attention from human leaders and, unknowingly, from alien observers. But Adam himself remained focused on the task at hand. He wasn't driven by thoughts of galactic power or conquest. He simply wanted to keep humanity safe and ensure that no colony would ever be left vulnerable again. One day, as he tested a new shield generator on the horizon, an anomaly appeared on their sensors. A small, unmarked ship lingered on the edge of the system, far enough away to seem harmless, but close enough to raise suspicions. Adam's team noted its position and kept an eye on it, wondering who, or what, was watching them. Pirates? Kara asked, glancing at the data. Maybe, Adam replied. But something feels off. Pirates would have attacked by now. The truth, of course, was that the ship belonged to the Council's Intelligence Division. Its crew had orders not to engage, only to observe and report. But the presence of that vessel would set off a chain of events no one could predict, further escalating the tension between humans and the rest of the galaxy. As the Council debated Valoran's proposal, Rallan prepared to make her stand. She requested a special audience with the Council's leadership, intending to present a different path forward. She gathered every piece of evidence she could find showing humanity's potential for cooperation, their willingness to engage in peaceful trade, and their remarkable resilience in the face of disaster. Her hope was to shift the conversation away from fear and toward diplomacy. But Valoran was a skilled politician. He knew how to stoke the Council's anxiety, and he had the majority on his side. As Rallan stepped into the chamber, she understood that this would be an uphill battle. Still, she believed that humanity's greatest strength, their ability to adapt, to think creatively, to turn challenges into opportunities, could also be a reason for the galaxy to embrace them, not fear them. As the session began, the delegates quieted, and Valoran's gaze locked onto Rallon. This was her chance to change the course of history, if she could just make them see humanity not as a threat, but as a valuable ally. Rallon stood before the gathered council, her hands clasped behind her back as she prepared to speak. The chamber's atmosphere was heavy with expectation. She could feel the weight of their skepticism, their fear, but she also felt the flicker of curiosity from some. Maybe, just maybe, she could shift the narrative. Esteemed delegates, Rallon began, her voice steady, for too long we have allowed our fear of the unknown to dictate our actions. Humans are not the first species to rise from obscurity and challenge our assumptions. They are not the first to display ingenuity under pressure. But they are the first to do so in a way that has captured our imagination, and our anxiety. Her words hung in the air. A few murmurs passed through the chamber, but Valoran remained silent, his gaze fixed on her. Rallon continued, I understand why many of you see humanity as a threat. Their rapid advancements, their unconventional strategies, and their ability to adapt so quickly, these are traits that unsettle even our most seasoned analysts. But what if we're misinterpreting their actions? What if, instead of trying to outpace us or dominate us, they're simply trying to survive? She paused, letting the question sink in. The footage we've seen, the reports we've read, yes, they show a species capable of extraordinary feats. But they also show a species that values cooperation, that seeks solutions not only for their own benefit but often for the communities they build around them. If we approach them with hostility, we risk pushing them into a corner. And history tells us that when humans are cornered, they innovate even faster. They fight even harder. Valoran finally spoke, his voice cold. Delegate Rallon, your optimism is noted. But it does not change the facts. Humans have consistently disregarded our boundaries, appropriated technology they did not create, and demonstrated a willingness to use their newfound power without consulting us or considering the consequences. Do you truly believe that extending an olive branch will deter them from continuing on this path? I do, Rallon said firmly. I believe that cooperation is the only path forward. If we engage with them, learn from them, and offer them a seat at the table, we turn potential conflict into potential partnership. The more we isolate them, the more we ensure they will grow into exactly the threat we fear. A tense silence followed. Valoran's expression was unreadable, but Rallon could see the gears turning in the minds of some delegates. She had planted a seed of doubt. That was enough for now. Meanwhile, on Earth, Adam's work had entered a critical phase. The hybrid technologies he and his team had developed were being integrated into the latest generation of human starships. The horizon was no longer just a testbed, it had become a symbol of humanity's ingenuity. Other crews sought to emulate Adam's methods, and even the most conservative corners of Earth's fledgling space council began to embrace the new direction. But the mysterious ship that had appeared on the system's edge continued to linger. Adam's crew monitored its movements carefully, noting how it seemed to follow a pattern, always at the periphery, never drawing too close. Kara, the senior engineer, voiced what everyone was thinking during a team briefing. I don't like it, she said. Whoever they are, they're watching us. They're waiting for something. Adam nodded. I know. And if they're waiting, it means they're not sure. That gives us time. Time for what? One of the junior technicians asked. Time to make sure we're ready, no matter what happens. Adam's team redoubled their efforts. They knew that humanity's future depended not just on their technological advancements, but on their ability to respond to whatever challenge lay ahead. They had no idea that the Council was behind the unmarked ship, or that their every move was being scrutinized by a galaxy unsure of what to do with them. Back on the Council's capital world, Valoran met with his closest advisors in a private chamber. The session with Rallan had troubled him. He saw her arguments gaining traction among some of the younger delegates. Worse, he saw cracks forming in the Council's unified front. If too many began to question the wisdom of containment, the entire strategy could collapse. Valoran turned to Malric, the intelligence officer who had presented much of the data on humanity. "You've been quiet," Valoran said. "What's your take on this?" Malric hesitated, then spoke carefully. "Rallan raises valid points. I've reviewed the same footage, the same reports. I agree that humans are unpredictable. But that unpredictability doesn't have to mean hostility. If we engage with them in a controlled manner, we might find that their innovation can be guided rather than feared." Valoran's expression darkened. "Guided? Or exploited?" "Both, perhaps," Malric replied. "But it's a risk either way. If we move against them too aggressively, we may provoke a response we can't control." Valoran leaned back, steepling his fingers. He didn't like the uncertainty. The Council had always thrived on stability, on managing threats before they grew too large. But humanity defied their usual strategies. They weren't a monolithic empire that could be intimidated into compliance. They were something entirely new. "I'll consider your input," Valoran said finally. "But for now, we stay the course. The monitoring continues. And we prepare contingencies for every possible scenario." In the Sol system, the unmarked ship finally made its move. It approached the edge of Earth's primary orbital defense grid, broadcasting a neutral signal. Earth Space Council received the transmission and scrambled to respond. A diplomatic team was sent to meet the vessel, escorted by a fleet of human ships outfitted with Adam's hybrid technology. Adam himself wasn't part of the diplomatic mission, but he watched the events unfold through secure channels. The alien ship transmitted a simple message: it wanted to talk. Earth's representatives, wary but curious, opened a channel. The voice on the other end was calm and measured. But it revealed little about its origin or its intent. The conversation began with formalities, but it quickly became clear that the visitors were probing, asking questions about humanity's recent technological leaps, their expansion efforts, and their willingness to engage with other species. The Earth team answered cautiously, aware that this could be a test. Adam and his team analyzed the ship's transmission patterns, looking for clues. Kara, ever the skeptic, voiced her doubts. "I don't think they're just here to talk. They're gathering intel." Adam agreed. "Maybe. But if they're talking, it means they haven't made up their minds yet. We need to show them we're capable, but not hostile." As the diplomatic exchange continued, the visitors made a surprising request. They wanted to tour one of Earth's new hybrid ships, claiming it was a gesture of goodwill. The Earth team hesitated, but after a tense discussion, they agreed, under strict security protocols. When the aliens boarded the horizon, Adam was there to greet them. He watched as they examined the ship's systems, their expressions unreadable. They asked questions, technical, precise, and Adam answered carefully, never revealing too much. But as the visit went on, he began to suspect that the aliens weren't just gathering information, they were assessing humanity's potential. Back in the council chamber, the reports from the visiting ship were received with mixed reactions. Some saw it as proof that humans could be reasoned with, that dialogue was possible. Others, like Valoran, interpreted it as a sign that humanity was even more dangerous than previously thought. If a single hybrid ship could impress seasoned observers, what would happen when Earth's fleet grew larger, stronger, more advanced? Rallan, who had been monitoring the situation closely, saw an opportunity. She called for another session, arguing that the peaceful exchange between the alien envoy and the humans demonstrated that humanity wasn't inherently hostile. "We have proof now," she told the council. "They are willing to talk. They are willing to cooperate. This is the moment to change our approach." Valoran countered, "What you call cooperation, I call reconnaissance." They were measuring us, testing us, just as they tested the Kelmer and the Vorkai. This is a strategy, not goodwill. The chamber was split. The growing divide among the delegates was undeniable, and Rallan knew that whatever happened next would shape the galaxy's future. The question remained, would they let their fear dictate their actions, or would they take the chance to forge a different path? Back on Earth, the diplomatic mission had returned from the unmarked alien ship, bringing back more questions than answers. The visitors had been respectful, even courteous, but they'd offered little information about their origins or intentions. Instead, they'd focused on learning about humanity's advancements and methods. That left Adam and his team with a lingering sense of unease. Adam's hybrid technology program had now become a cornerstone of Earth's expanding fleet. The Horizon and its sister ships were being deployed to human outposts across the frontier. On the surface, everything seemed to be progressing smoothly. Human colonies were better defended, supply lines were more secure, and Earth's exploration efforts were extending further than ever before. But Adam couldn't shake the feeling that they were on borrowed time. "I don't like it," Kara said one afternoon as they reviewed another batch of modifications. She'd been saying it more frequently in recent weeks, though she never elaborated much. This time, Adam decided to press her. "Don't like what?" he asked, not looking up from the schematics. "This, calm. The way everyone's acting like we've got it all figured out." Kara leaned against the workbench, arms crossed. "It's not like us. We thrive in chaos, right? That's why we've made it this far. But now, it's like we're just waiting. Waiting for the other shoe to drop." Adam paused and turned toward her. "What are you saying? That we're becoming complacent?" "Not complacent. Just, overconfident. We've been winning small fights, outsmarting pirates, upgrading our ships. But that ship out there, the one that came to talk. They weren't just looking. They were sizing us up. And I don't think we're ready for what's coming." Adam understood her worry, but he couldn't afford to let it show. "We don't stop because we're worried. We keep building, keep improving. That's how we got this far, and it's how we'll keep going." Meanwhile, the Galactic Council had reached a tipping point. Valoran's calls for direct intervention were gaining traction among the senior delegates. The younger faction, led informally by Rallan, pushed back, arguing for diplomacy and engagement. The divide had never been more apparent. Valoran, sensing that his position might be slipping, doubled down. He presented a new set of data, reports from the Council's covert probes that showed humanity developing prototype ships far more advanced than anything previously seen. One vessel in particular, the Aegis, was rumored to have a fully integrated hybrid system capable of rendering most conventional weapons ineffective. "These ships are not defensive measures," Valoran declared. "They are offensive weapons. Humanity is not just preparing to protect itself, they are preparing to challenge us. If we wait any longer, they will outpace our ability to respond." Rallan stood to counter him, but Valoran held up a hand. "Delegate Rallan, you've had your chance to speak. Now, let me be clear, our intelligence confirms that humanity's rate of innovation is accelerating. They're no longer adapting to existing threats, they're anticipating new ones. This is the beginning of an arms race, one we cannot afford to lose." Rallan refused to back down. "And what happens if we escalate this arms race? What happens if we push them into a corner, force them to fight when they might not have intended to? That's how conflicts spiral out of control. Instead of creating a new enemy, we should be creating a new ally." Her words resonated with some, but not enough. Valoran's motion passed. The Council would prepare a series of covert operations to disrupt humanity's progress. They would target key facilities, sabotage critical projects, and do whatever was necessary to slow the humans down. Rallan left the chamber feeling defeated, but she wasn't ready to give up. She began working behind the scenes, reaching out to allies, compiling evidence of humanity's peaceful intentions, and preparing for the moment when she could bring her argument back to the floor. On Earth, Adam's unease was growing. While he didn't know the details, he sensed that something was brewing beyond the stars. Reports of strange anomalies, malfunctions in equipment that had been perfectly fine before, small explosions in supply depots, and sudden communications blackouts, were becoming more frequent. The official explanations were thin. Equipment failure, routine power surges, and minor incidents didn't line up with the scale of the disruptions. Adam called a meeting with his team. "I think we're being targeted," he said bluntly. Kara frowned. "Targeted by who?" "Pirates don't hit like this, and we haven't had any direct encounters with those observers since their visit." "I don't know who it is," Adam admitted. "But I think they're trying to slow us down. Maybe even stop us." The room fell silent. The team looked at one another, their confidence shaken. "So what do we do?" one of the junior technicians asked. "We do what we've always done," Adam said. "We adapt. If they're trying to sabotage us, we find out how. We stay one step ahead. And we keep moving forward." In the Council's intelligence division, the covert operations were already underway. Agents planted subtle disruptions in Earth's supply chains, tampered with prototype ship designs, and spread misinformation among human factions. At first, these measures seemed to work. Human progress slowed. Delays mounted. But the effect didn't last. The humans adapted. The Aegis, the flagship project that Valoran feared most, had been sabotaged twice. Both times, Adam and his team identified the problem, redesigned the affected systems, and improved them in the process. The ship was now more advanced than ever. Incorporating redundancies and countermeasures that no one, least of all the Council's saboteurs, had anticipated. Valoran grew increasingly frustrated. "Why can't we stop them?" he demanded during a closed-door meeting with Malric. Malric, who had grown quietly skeptical of the sabotage campaign, offered a measured response. "Because they learn from every failure. Every time we interfere, we give them another problem to solve. And they solve it. Faster and better than before. Then we'll have to be more aggressive," Valoran said grimly. "We'll increase our efforts. They can't adapt forever." Rallan, aware of the Council's covert actions, worked tirelessly to bring her evidence to light. She had collected statements from alien species who had traded with humans, describing them as fair and cooperative. She had compiled reports showing that many of humanity's advancements had been defensive, not offensive. She was preparing to present her findings when a breakthrough occurred. A rogue agent from the Intelligence Division leaked classified documents showing the full extent of the Council's sabotage efforts. The documents spread rapidly, igniting a firestorm within the Council. Delegates who had been on the fence turned against Valoran's campaign, questioning the wisdom and ethics of their approach. Rallan seized the opportunity to call for an emergency session. "This is what we've come to," she said, holding up the leaked reports. "We are sabotaging a species that has not declared war on us, that has not attacked us, that has not sought to conquer us. We are acting out of fear, and in doing so, we are proving that fear to be justified. We are showing humanity that we are not a council of unity and cooperation, but a council of paranoia and control." The chamber erupted in debate. Valoran defended the actions as necessary, but his position was now weaker than ever. Rallan's allies pushed for an end to the sabotage campaign and for a new diplomatic approach. Back on Earth, Adam and his team finally completed the Aegis. The ship represented the culmination of humanity's ingenuity and resilience. Its systems were a patchwork of human engineering and alien adaptations, each piece refined through countless iterations. It was a symbol of what humanity could achieve when faced with adversity. As the ship prepared for its maiden voyage, Adam stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Kara joined him. "You think we're ready?" she asked. Adam nodded slowly. We've always been ready. We just didn't know it until now. The Aegis launched into the void, carrying with it not only the hopes of a planet but also the message that humanity was here to stay. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would meet them with the same determination and creativity that had brought them this far. In the council chamber, the debate raged on. The delegates were now evenly divided. Valoran's influence was waning, but he still had allies. Rallan knew that the final decision would come down to one crucial vote. She took the podium once more, her voice steady, her words clear. Humans have shown us that they will rise to meet any challenge, that they will adapt to any threat. We have two choices: continue down the path of fear, or choose the path of hope. I urge you to vote for dialogue, for cooperation, for a future where we do not fear humanity, but embrace it. The chamber fell silent. The vote began. The galaxy held its breath. In the vast council chamber, every delegate's gaze fixed on the central podium as the results of the vote were tallied. Rallan stood quietly, her hands at her sides, waiting as the chamber's automated system processed the input from hundreds of representatives. Valoran sat rigid, his jaw tight, knowing this moment would determine not only humanity's future but also the future of the Council's unity. The system chimed softly, signaling that the count was complete. A voice echoed through the chamber: the resolution has passed. The Galactic Council will pursue diplomatic engagement with humanity. Rallan exhaled slowly, the tension in her shoulders easing. The chamber erupted into a mix of cheers, applause, and quiet grumbles. Valoran rose, his expression unreadable, but he said nothing. He simply walked out, his long silver robes sweeping the floor behind him. For the first time in years, Rallan felt that she had truly made a difference. But the decision, though historic, was only the beginning. On Earth, Adam stood in the shadow of the Aegis as it prepared for its second test flight. The first journey had been a complete success, demonstrating that the hybrid technology could withstand not only deep space conditions but also unexpected challenges. Now, it would be put to the ultimate test, an encounter with a newly arrived alien delegation. The ship carrying the delegation had appeared in orbit 2 days after Earth's leaders received the Council's formal invitation to open diplomatic channels. The invitation had been terse and careful, making no mention of the Council's previous covert actions. For Earth's leadership, this was the first real indication that their hard-earned progress had captured more than just passing interest. For Adam and his team, it meant one thing: they needed to be ready. Kara stood beside him, arms crossed as she watched the loading crews work. So what's the plan? We show off our shiny new ship and hope they're impressed? Something like that, Adam replied. Except I think we're supposed to be the ones impressed. This is their move, they want to see if we'll play along. And if we don't? Kara asked. Adam didn't answer. Instead, he looked up at the massive vessel that had come to symbolize Earth's adaptability and ingenuity. The Aegis was humanity's response to a universe that seemed intent on underestimating them. Now, it would be put to the ultimate test, an encounter with a newly arrived alien delegation. The ship carrying the delegation had appeared in orbit 2 days after Earth's leaders received the Council's formal invitation to open diplomatic channels. The invitation had been terse and careful, making no mention of the Council's previous covert actions. For Earth's leadership, this was the first real indication that their hard-earned progress had captured more than just passing interest. For Adam and his team, it meant one thing: they needed to be ready. Kara stood beside him, arms crossed as she watched the loading crews work. So what's the plan? We show off our shiny new ship and hope they're impressed? Something like that, Adam replied. Except I think we're supposed to be the ones impressed. This is their move, they want to see if we'll play along. And if we don't? Kara asked. Adam didn't answer. Instead, he looked up at the massive vessel that had come to symbolize Earth's adaptability and ingenuity. The Aegis was humanity's response to a universe that seemed intent on underestimating them. Now, it would be the stage for their first formal exchange with the Council. Aboard the alien delegation's ship, the mood was tense. The Council had sent a team of seasoned diplomats along with a small contingent of intelligence officers. Their orders were clear: assess humanity's intentions, gauge their technological progress, and, most importantly, avoid provoking them. The lead diplomat, a tall, angular figure named Arlen, reviewed the data on humanity one last time before the meeting. The reports were both impressive and unsettling. Humans had advanced far faster than the Council had anticipated, but more than that, they had proven resilient in ways that defied conventional logic. They thrived on adversity, turned setbacks into breakthroughs, and found solutions where others saw only problems. It was clear that these were not a people to be underestimated. Arlen's second-in-command, a sharp-eyed analyst named Vala, entered the chamber. "The human ship is approaching, Ambassador. They've agreed to dock with us for the initial meeting." Arlen nodded. "And their security posture?" "Light," Vala replied. "They're bringing a small diplomatic team and some technical experts. No overt military presence." "Good," Arlen said. "Let's hope this goes smoothly." When the Aegis docked with the Council ship, Adam joined the small Earth delegation. The two groups met in a neutral meeting room designed for first contact scenarios. It was a sterile, polished space with minimal decoration, just enough to feel official, not enough to feel personal. Arlen rose from his seat and extended a hand. The human diplomats hesitated for a moment, then returned the gesture. It was a small but symbolic act. Both sides took their seats, and the dialogue began. The initial conversation was cautious and polite. The Council representatives spoke in measured tones, asking about Earth's recent advancements, their colonization efforts, and their perspective on the larger galactic community. The humans responded openly but carefully, emphasizing their desire for peaceful coexistence and mutual growth. As the discussion continued, Adam found himself quietly observing the alien diplomats. They were curious, but also guarded. He could tell they were trying to probe, to understand what made humans tick. It wasn't long before Arlen turned his attention to Adam specifically. "Mr. Adam," Arlen began, "you are credited with leading some of the most significant advancements in human space technology. Your work on hybrid systems has been noted." Adam met his gaze evenly. "Thank you. It's been a team effort, and we've learned a lot from the challenges we've faced." "That's what we find most remarkable about your species," Arlen said. "You seem to thrive under pressure. Tell me, what drives that constant push for improvement?" Adam thought for a moment. "Necessity, mostly. We've always had to figure things out as we go. It's just how we've survived." Arlen nodded slowly, as if filing that answer away. "Interesting. And now that you've reached a level of technology on par with many established galactic powers, how do you see your role in the larger community?" Adam hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "We see ourselves as contributors. We don't want to dominate. We just want to be part of something bigger, to share what we've learned and learn from others." The room was quiet for a moment. Then Arlen smiled, a small, careful expression. "Perhaps there is more common ground than some of us believed." After the meeting, the two delegations agreed to a series of follow-up discussions. These would lay the groundwork for humanity's formal entry into the Galactic Council as a recognized member species. For Rallen, who watched the proceedings from a secure channel back on the Council homeworld, it was a vindication of everything she had fought for. In the weeks that followed, tensions within the Council began to ease. Valoran, seeing that the tide had turned, withdrew from public view. The faction that had pushed for engagement gained influence, and Rallen's efforts were widely acknowledged as the turning point. Though it was far from a unanimous decision, the Council was now committed to working with humanity rather than against them. Adam and Kara returned to Earth, where they were hailed as heroes, not for their battle prowess, but for their ingenuity and resilience. The hybrid ships became symbols of humanity's place in the galaxy, a species that had taken what others had discarded or dismissed and turned it into something extraordinary. But Adam knew the work was far from over. The galaxy was vast, and humanity's journey had only just begun. They had proven themselves capable of surviving and thriving, but now they faced a new challenge: building trust, forging alliances, and demonstrating that their ingenuity wasn't a threat, but a gift. As Adam stood once again on the observation deck of the Aegis, watching it prepare for its next mission, he felt a quiet pride. Humanity had earned its place at the table, not through conquest, but through resilience and cooperation. They were no longer the outliers, the underdogs. They were contributors, partners, and perhaps, one day, leaders. The galaxy had feared them. But now, it would come to respect them. And for the first time in a long while, Adam felt that humanity was truly ready for the stars.